The massive space station floated in the darkness between stars like a silver jewel against black cloth. Inside its gleaming halls, creatures from 100 different worlds gathered around a table that stretched for miles. Some walked on 2 legs like humans would, others crawled on 6, and some floated in tanks filled with strange green liquid. They all had one thing in common today. They were talking about Earth. Ambassador Zethric stood nearly 10 feet tall with skin like blue metal and eyes that glowed soft white. He had been watching the small blue planet for longer than most humans had been alive. His long fingers touched the controls of a device that showed pictures in the air above the table. The pictures showed Earth spinning slowly, its white clouds swirling over green and brown land. "The humans have grown much faster than we expected," Zethric said in a voice that sounded like wind through metal pipes. 300 years ago, they could barely fly in their own sky. Now they have reached their moon and built things in space around their world. Counselor Vextar made a sound like breaking glass. Her body looked like a living crystal that changed colors when she felt strong emotions. Right now she was deep red, which meant she was worried. "They fight each other constantly," she said. "Their planet has more wars happening right now than some star systems have in 1,000 years. How can we trust such violent creatures?" Around the table, other voices joined in. Some agreed with Vextar. Others thought the humans might be ready. They had been having the same argument for 50 years. The Galactic Council had rules about when to contact new worlds. The people on those worlds had to be peaceful and ready to join the larger community of space-traveling species. Most worlds took thousands of years to reach that point. Earth was moving much faster than anyone had ever seen before. Admiral Jake Morrison sat in a room buried deep under a mountain in Colorado. The room had no windows but was filled with screens showing pictures from space. Some showed the moon where humans had built secret bases. Others showed the asteroid belt where they had built factories that nobody else knew about. Jake was 60 years old with gray hair and scars on his face from wars he had fought when he was younger. He had been preparing for this day for 20 years. Captain Lisa Brooks stood next to him looking at a screen that showed strange symbols. She was much younger than Jake, with brown hair tied back and green eyes that missed nothing. "Sir, we're getting a message from outside our solar system. It's not like anything we've seen before." Jake walked over to look at the screen. The symbols were changing into words he could read. The message was simple, but it made his heart beat faster. The aliens were inviting Earth to send 3 ships to meet with their council. 3 small ships with no weapons to talk about joining their group of worlds. 3 ships? Jake said with a smile that would have scared his enemies. "They want 3 ships." He pressed a button that sent a coded message to secret bases all over the solar system. The message had 2 words. "It's time." On the moon, Commander Ryan Torres received the message in a base hidden inside a crater on the dark side. The base was bigger than most cities on Earth, but nobody could see it from space. Inside, thousands of people had been working for decades to build something the galaxy had never seen before. Ryan was tall and thin with black hair and eyes like dark steel. He had never been in a real space battle, but he had trained for one every day for 15 years. "All units, this is Lunar Command." Ryan spoke into his microphone. "Operation Thunder is now active. All ships prepare for deployment." Around him, people ran to their stations. Lights flashed and alarms rang. In the huge underground hangar, massive doors opened to reveal ships that looked like metal sharks with engines instead of fins. Each ship was longer than 10 football fields and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan was on the largest ship hidden behind one of Jupiter's moons. The ship was so big it could carry a whole city inside it. Kate was 45 years old and had been in space longer than anyone else in the human fleet. She had short red hair and blue eyes that had seen things that would give most people nightmares. "Fleet command to all ships." Kate spoke into her communication system that could reach every human vessel in the solar system. "Today we show the galaxy what Earth has been building. Today they learn that humans don't come begging for protection. We come as equals." Back on the alien space station, Zethric was still showing pictures of Earth to the Council. He did not know that right now, thousands of human ships were powering up their engines and preparing to leave their hiding places. He did not know that the humans had been watching the aliens just as much as the aliens had been watching Earth. "I believe the humans are ready for contact," Zethric said to the Council. "They have stopped most of their wars and are working together more than before. 3 ships should be enough for a peaceful first meeting." What Zethric and the rest of the galaxy did not know was that humans had a saying. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Earth was about to carry the biggest stick the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Neil Garcia sat in a ship so advanced that alien sensors could not detect it. His job was to watch the aliens and report back to Earth. He had been doing this for 5 years, learning about their technology and their weaknesses. Neil was small and quick with dark skin and eyes that never missed anything important. Go 7 to Earth Command. Neil spoke quietly into his radio. The aliens are sending their invitation now. They have no idea what's coming. Jake Morrison smiled as he heard Neil's report. Everything was going exactly as planned. The aliens thought they were dealing with a young, weak civilization that would be grateful for their guidance. They were about to learn that humans had been preparing for this moment since they first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Send the reply, Jake ordered Lisa Brooks. Tell them Earth accepts their invitation. Tell them we're coming to talk. The message went out into space, traveling faster than light to reach the alien council. It was polite and friendly, exactly what the aliens expected from a primitive world. What it did not mention was that along with the diplomats, Earth was sending enough warships to conquer half the galaxy. The galaxy had waited 300 years for Earth to be ready for contact. Soon they would learn that Earth had been ready for much longer than they thought. Commander Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the most amazing sight in human history. All around him, thousands of ships were appearing out of nowhere like ghosts becoming real. For 50 years, these ships had been hidden behind planets, inside asteroid belts and in the dark spaces between worlds. Now they were all showing themselves at the same time. The ship Ryan commanded was called the UES Retribution, and it was one of the smaller vessels in the fleet. Even so, it was twice as large as anything the aliens had ever built. Its hull was black metal that seemed to drink in starlight, and along its sides were weapons that could turn a planet into dust. Ryan had helped design some of those weapons when he was younger, back when Earth was still pretending to be a peaceful world with no interest in war. Ships report ready for operation, said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her station behind Ryan. Amy was 28 years old with blonde hair and sharp green eyes. She had been born on Mars in one of the secret colonies that the aliens did not know existed. Like most people her age, she had grown up knowing that one day Earth would reveal itself to the galaxy, and she had trained her whole life for this moment. On the main screen at the front of the bridge, Ryan could see the Earth hanging in space like a blue and white marble. Around it, more ships were appearing every second. Some came from behind the moon where they had been hidden in underground bases. Others came from the asteroid belt where they had been disguised as mining stations. The largest ones came from the outer planets where they had been waiting in the cold darkness for decades. Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan was watching the same scene from her command ship, the UES Sovereign. The Sovereign was so large that it had its own gravity and could carry 50,000 people inside it. Kate had been in charge of building the secret fleet, and seeing all her ships together for the first time made her feel proud and scared at the same time. This is Fleet Admiral Sullivan to all vessels, Kate spoke into her communication system. Today we take our place among the stars, but we do it on our own terms. Let the galaxy see what humanity can build when we work together. The alien monitoring stations throughout the solar system had been recording everything Earth did for hundreds of years. They had watched humans take their first steps on the moon, build their first space stations, and send their first ships to other planets. What they had not seen were the secret projects hidden from there, sensors by technology that humans had developed in complete secrecy. Captain Neil Garcia was still flying his invisible scout ship near the alien space station when the human fleet revealed itself. His ship was equipped with the most advanced stealth technology that human science could create, making it completely undetectable to alien sensors. Neil had been watching the aliens for 5 years, learning everything about their ships, their weapons, and their military capabilities. Ghost 7 to Fleet Command, Neil reported as he watched alien ships scrambling to respond to the sudden appearance of the human fleet. The aliens are in complete panic. Their patrol ships are pulling back and they're calling for emergency reinforcements. I think we definitely got their attention. Back on Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison was watching everything from his command center under the Colorado mountains. The room was filled with screens showing every human ship in the solar system, and Jake could hardly believe what he was seeing. The plan he had been working on for 20 years was finally happening, and it was even more impressive than he had hoped. Attention, Galactic Council. Jake spoke into a transmitter that would send his voice across the stars to the alien space station. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison representing the United Earth Defense Force. Humanity accepts your invitation for first contact. We are coming to your space station to talk. But as you can see, we are bringing some backup." The alien council members who had been so confident about making contact with primitive Earth suddenly found themselves staring at sensor readings that showed more human ships than some species had in their entire fleet. The humans had not just been preparing for first contact, they had been preparing for war on a scale that the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Rachel Martinez was on one of the science ships in the fleet, studying the alien vessels that were trying to figure out what was happening. Rachel was an expert in alien biology and technology, and she had spent years preparing for this moment. She was small and dark-haired with brown eyes that missed nothing when she was studying something new. "The alien ships are keeping their distance," Rachel reported to her commander. "Their sensor readings must be showing them something they never expected. Good. Fear breeds respect, and respect is what we need if we want to be treated as equals." Captain Pete Johnson commanded a group of heavy battle cruisers that had been hidden in the asteroid belt. His ships were designed for one purpose: to fight and win against anything the galaxy could throw at them. Pete was a big man with gray hair and scars from training accidents, and he had been waiting his whole career for a chance to test his ships against alien technology. "Fleet Command, this is Battle Group 7, Pete reported as his ships moved into formation with the rest of the fleet. "All weapon systems are online and ready. If the aliens want to try something stupid, we're ready for them." The human fleet was arranged in a formation that stretched across half the solar system. At the center were the largest ships carrying the diplomats who would actually talk to the aliens. Around them were layers of escort vessels, each one more heavily armed than most alien battleships, and at the edges of the formation were the scout ships and long-range patrol vessels that could detect any alien force long before it became a threat. Colonel Susan Hayes was on one of the command ships, monitoring alien communications and trying to understand how they were reacting to the human fleet. Susan was an expert in alien languages and had been listening to their radio transmissions for years. She was tall and thin with red hair and green eyes that never showed what she was thinking. "Admiral Morrison, we're picking up a lot of chatter from alien monitoring stations," Susan reported. "They're calling emergency meetings and trying to figure out how we built so many ships without them knowing about it. Some of them are demanding that we be classified as a hostile threat." Jake Morrison smiled when he heard Susan's report. Everything was going exactly as he had planned. The aliens had thought they were dealing with a primitive world that would be grateful for their guidance and protection. Instead, they were facing a civilization that had been secretly preparing for this moment for generations. General Ben Coleman was on the diplomatic ship that would actually travel to the alien space station. Ben was in charge of military security for the human delegation, and his job was to make sure the aliens understood that Earth would not be pushed around or intimidated. He was a big man with black skin and dark eyes that had seen too many battles. "Diplomatic team, this is General Coleman." Ben spoke to the other members of the human delegation. "Remember, we're not going there to threaten anyone, but we're also not going there to beg for acceptance. We're going there as representatives of a major power, and we expect to be treated with the respect that major powers deserve." The sight of the human fleet had changed everything. What was supposed to be a simple first contact between a primitive world and the advanced galactic civilization had suddenly become a meeting between equals. The galaxy had been expecting Earth to send 3 small ships begging for protection and guidance. Instead, Earth had revealed a military force that could challenge any power in known space. As the human fleet began moving toward the edge of the solar system, every alien government in the galaxy was holding emergency meetings to decide how to respond to this unexpected development. The balance of power that had existed for thousands of years was about to change forever, and nobody knew what would happen next. The great amphitheater of the Galactic Council had been built to hold representatives from 500 different worlds, but it had never seen chaos like this. Creatures that normally spoke in quiet, diplomatic voices were now shouting at each other in languages that sounded like music, grinding metal, and breaking glass. The cause of all this noise was the same thing: the human fleet that was now traveling toward their space station with more ships than most species had ever seen in one place. Ambassador Zethric stood at his speaking platform, with his blue metallic skin flickering with stress patterns. He had been the one to recommend first contact with Earth, and now he was trying to explain to 500 angry species representatives why the primitive humans had just revealed a military force that could conquer half the galaxy. The humans were supposed to send 3 small diplomatic vessels, Zethric said, his voice carrying across the amphitheater through translation devices that turned his words into hundreds of different languages. Our sensors showed no indication that they possessed such advanced technology or military capability. Prime Minister Kethara of the Zenith Collective rose from her seat, her tall, thin form casting strange shadows under the amphitheater lights. The Zenith were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, and they had seen civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. Kethara had skin like silver mirrors and eyes that glowed soft blue, and when she spoke, even the loudest voices in the amphitheater became quiet. "This changes everything we thought we knew about human development," Kethara said in a voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "No emerging species in galactic history has ever possessed such military strength. We must assume that everything we believed about Earth was wrong." Counselor Vextar's crystalline body was now flashing between red and purple, which meant she was both angry and afraid. She had been against contacting Earth from the beginning, and now she felt like her worst fears were coming true. "I warned this council that the humans were too violent and unpredictable," she said, her voice sounding like crystal bells being struck with metal hammers. "Now they approach our space with enough ships to destroy this entire station." While the alien council argued about what to do, the human delegation was preparing for their arrival at the station. The lead ship in the human fleet was the UES Sovereign, commanded by Admiral Kevin Price. Kevin was 55 years old with brown hair that was starting to turn gray and blue eyes, that had seen more space battles and training simulations than most alien admirals had seen in real life. On the bridge of the Sovereign, Ambassador Claire Watson was reviewing her notes for the meeting with the Alien Council. Claire was a diplomat who had spent her entire career preparing for first contact with alien species. She was tall and elegant with black hair and dark eyes that could look friendly or dangerous depending on what the situation required. "Remember," Claire said to the other members of the human delegation, "we're not going there to threaten anyone, but we're also not going there to apologize for being strong. Humanity has spent 50 years preparing for this moment, and we're going to make sure the galaxy understands that we won't be pushed around." Dr. Rachel Martinez was also on the Sovereign, serving as the human expert on alien biology and psychology. She had studied every piece of information that Earth's spy networks had gathered about the galactic species, and she understood how they thought and what they feared better than anyone else in the human government. "The aliens are scared," Rachel told Claire as they watched the alien space station growing larger on their viewing screens. "Good, fear makes them respect us. And respect is what we need if we want to be treated as equals rather than as primitives who need their guidance." General Ben Coleman was in charge of security for the human delegation, and he was making sure that everyone understood the situation they were walking into. Ben had fought in wars on Earth before humanity revealed its space fleet, and he knew that the best way to avoid a fight was to make sure your enemies knew you could win if they started one. "The Alien Council Station has defensive weapons, but nothing that can threaten our ships," Ben told his security team. "However, we're going there to talk, not to fight. Our job is to make sure the aliens understand that humanity is a major power that deserves respect, not a primitive species that needs protection." As the human fleet approached the alien space station, every species in the galaxy was watching through their own sensors and spy networks. The Draconian Empire, which had been the galaxy's dominant military power for 1,000 years, was holding emergency meetings to discuss how to respond to this new threat. The Altarian Republic was trying to decide whether to offer alliance or prepare for war. Smaller species were wondering if the humans might be better protectors than the current galactic powers. Captain Pete Johnson was commanding the escort ships that surrounded the Sovereign as it approached the station. His ships were ready for battle if the aliens decided to try something stupid, but Pete hoped that would not be necessary. He had spent 20 years training for space combat, but he would rather win through intimidation than through actual fighting. "Council Station, this is Captain Johnson commanding the human escort fleet," Pete transmitted to the alien station. "We're detecting weapons systems charging on several of your vessels. I strongly suggest you reconsider that decision." The message had the desired effect. The alien ships that had been preparing to defend the station quickly powered down their weapons. Nobody wanted to be the first to fire on a fleet that could probably destroy the entire station in minutes. On the alien station, emergency meetings were being held in every corner as different species tried to figure out how to respond to the human arrival. Some wanted to demand that the humans leave immediately. Others thought it would be better to try to negotiate with them. A few were already wondering if they should ask the humans for protection against their traditional enemies. Lieutenant Amy Foster was monitoring alien communications from her position on one of the human ships, and she was amazed by what she was hearing. "General Coleman, you need to hear this," Amy said as she played back some of the alien transmissions. "Half the species on that station are terrified of us, and the other half are trying to figure out how to become our allies." The human fleet maintained its formation as the Sovereign docked with the alien station. The sight of thousands of human warships waiting just outside the station's defensive perimeter was a constant reminder that Earth had not come to beg for acceptance into galactic civilization. They had come as equals, ready to take their place among the major powers of the galaxy. Ambassador Claire Watson straightened her formal diplomatic uniform as she prepared to leave the Sovereign and enter the alien station. She had trained for this moment her entire career, and she knew that what happened in the next few hours would determine humanity's place in the galaxy for centuries to come. "Remember," Claire said to her delegation as they walked toward the airlock that would take them onto the alien station, "we represent all of humanity today. We're not here to start a war, but we're also not here to accept a subordinate position. Earth is a major power now, and it's time for the galaxy to recognize that fact." The airlock opened and the human delegation stepped onto the alien station for the first time in human history. Behind them, visible through the massive viewing windows, the human fleet waited in formation. The message was clear. Humanity had arrived and the galaxy would never be the same. The council chambers fell completely silent as Ambassador Claire Watson entered, her footsteps echoing in the vast space that could hold representatives from 500 worlds. Behind her walked Admiral Kevin Price and General Ben Coleman, their military uniforms a sharp contrast to the flowing robes and strange garments worn by the alien delegates. Through the massive viewing ports that surrounded the chamber, the human fleet stretched across space like a metal constellation, each ship a reminder that Earth had not come to negotiate from a position of weakness. Claire walked to the center of the chamber where a speaking platform waited for her. She had practiced this speech 1,000 times, but standing here surrounded by creatures from across the galaxy made her heart beat faster. She was about to deliver words that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Claire began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation devices that turned her words into hundreds of alien languages. "I am Ambassador Claire Watson, representing the United Earth Government and all humanity. We come in peace, but we come prepared for war." A murmur ran through the assembled delegates like wind through tall grass. Some of the aliens shifted nervously in their seats, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and electronic sounds that the translation system could barely keep up with. Claire continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "For too long, species have joined this council as supplicants, grateful for protection and guidance from older civilizations. They have accepted subordinate positions and followed the lead of established powers. Humanity will not follow that path. We join this council as equals, ready to take our place among the major powers of the galaxy." Admiral Kevin Price stepped forward, his military bearing and scarred face making it clear that he was a man who had seen combat and was ready to see more if necessary. The alien delegates could see through the viewing ports that the human fleet was maintaining perfect formation. Thousands of ships holding position like a weapon pointed at the heart of galactic civilization. "Our fleet represents 50 years of preparation and planning," Admiral Price said in a voice that carried the authority of someone who commanded more firepower than most species had ever seen. "While you watched us through your sensors, believing you understood our capabilities and limitations, we were watching you through ours. We learned about your politics, your wars, your strengths, and most importantly, your weaknesses." Counselor Vextar's crystalline form flashed bright red as she rose from her seat. Her voice sounded like breaking glass when she spoke, and the emotion in her words made the translation devices struggle to keep up. "You speak of preparation and watching. Preparation for what?" Are you here to threaten us? To conquer us? General Ben Coleman's scarred face remained completely calm as he answered her question. Ben had fought in more battles than most of the aliens in the chamber had even heard about, and he had learned long ago that the best way to win a fight was to make sure the other side knew they could not win. We prepared for survival, Counselor. Humanity has learned through thousands of years of history that the strong survive and the weak are conquered or destroyed. We have one policy that guides everything we do. We protect what is ours, and we do not ask permission from anyone to do so. The chamber erupted in protests and arguments as different species began shouting at each other in their various languages. Some demanded that humanity be classified as a hostile threat and contained immediately. Others called for immediate alliance negotiations. A few of the smaller species were already wondering if human protection might be better than what they currently received from the established powers. Prime Minister Kethera of the Zenith Collective rose from her seat, her silver skin reflecting the lights of the chamber as she called for order. The Zenith were one of the oldest and most respected species in the galaxy, and when Kethera spoke, even the loudest voices gradually became quiet. Ambassador Watson, Kethera said in her voice like wind chimes, your fleet is certainly impressive, but military strength alone does not make a civilization worthy of respect or partnership. What does humanity offer to the galaxy, besides the threat of violence? Claire had been expecting this question, and she was ready with an answer that she hoped would change how the aliens thought about Earth. We offer strength to those who need protection, knowledge to those who seek advancement, and partnership to those who want allies rather than masters. But most importantly, we offer an alternative to the current order where a few powerful species control the fate of hundreds of weaker ones. Dr. Rachel Martinez was watching the alien delegates carefully from her position near the viewing ports, studying their body language and reactions to the human words. Rachel had spent years learning about alien psychology, and she could see that the human message was having exactly the effect they had hoped for. Some species were frightened, others were angry, but many were interested in what humanity might offer them. Ambassador Zethric stood up from his platform, his blue metallic skin flickering with stress patterns that showed how difficult this situation was for him. He had been the one to recommend first contact with Earth, and now he was trying to understand how everything had gone so differently from what he had expected. Ambassador Watson, Zethric said in his voice like wind through metal, the Galactic Council has maintained peace for over 2,000 years by following established protocols and respecting the authority of senior species. How can we trust a species that arrives with weapons instead of gifts, threats instead of requests for guidance? Admiral Price answered before Claire could speak, his voice carrying the cold authority of someone who had commanded fleets in the darkness between stars. You can trust us because we are honest about what we are and what we want. We do not pretend to be weak when we are strong, or peaceful when we are ready for war. The established powers of this galaxy have maintained their positions through strength and the threat of violence. We simply refuse to pretend otherwise. Captain Pete Johnson's voice suddenly crackled through the communication system from the human fleet, interrupting the debate in the council chamber. Council Station, this is Captain Johnson commanding the human escort fleet. We are detecting weapon systems charging on several of your vessels. I strongly suggest you reconsider that decision before we are forced to respond. The message sent a chill through the alien delegates as they realized that the humans were monitoring everything that happened on and around the station. Several species that had been quietly preparing their ships for possible combat quickly ordered their weapons powered down. Nobody wanted to be responsible for starting the first galactic war in 2,000 years. General Coleman stepped forward again, his presence filling the chamber with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced death many times and was not afraid of it. Let me be very clear about humanity's position, he said in a voice that carried to every corner of the vast chamber. We did not come here to conquer anyone or to destroy the existing order, but we also did not come here to accept a subordinate position or to follow orders from species that think age gives them the right to rule others. Claire took control of the conversation again, her diplomatic training helping her find the right words to explain humanity's intentions without making the situation worse. The galaxy has waited 300 years for Earth to be ready for contact. We are here to tell you that Earth has been ready for much longer than you realized. We are ready to be partners, allies, and friends, but we will never be subjects or servants. The human delegation stood together in the center of the alien chamber, representatives of a species that had just announced its arrival as a major galactic power. Through the viewing ports, thousands of human ships waited in perfect formation, a fleet that could challenge any force in known space. The age of human isolation was over, and the galaxy would never be the same again. 3 months had passed since the human fleet arrived at the Galactic Council Station, and the galaxy had been completely transformed. What had started as a simple first contact meeting had become the beginning of a new age in galactic politics. The old balance of power, which had existed for thousands of years, was now broken beyond repair. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in his new office on Titan Station, the massive space facility that had become the headquarters of the Terran Defense Coalition. Through his window he could see a constant stream of ships moving through space, human vessels returning from patrol missions, alien merchant ships bringing trade goods to Earth space, and diplomatic vessels carrying representatives from dozens of species who wanted to negotiate with humanity. The office was larger than any room Jake had ever worked in before, with walls covered by screens showing the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. Each screen represented years of planning and preparation that had finally paid off. Earth was no longer hiding behind other powers or begging for protection. Humanity had taken its place as one of the major forces shaping galactic civilization. "Status report," Jake said to Colonel Susan Hayes, who had become his chief intelligence officer after the successful first contact mission. Susan had spent the last 3 months analyzing information from across the galaxy, trying to understand how different species were reacting to humanity's sudden emergence as a major power. 17 species have formally requested mutual defense treaties with Earth, Susan reported as she handed Jake a datapad filled with diplomatic communications. The Altarian Republic wants to discuss advanced technology sharing agreements. The Zenith Collective is offering exclusive trade deals that would give us access to resources from their entire territory. Even some of the smaller species that have been under draconian protection for centuries are asking if we might be interested in alternative arrangements. Jake smiled as he read through the reports. Everything was going better than even his most optimistic predictions had suggested. The show of force that had shocked the galaxy 3 months ago was now paying dividends as species after species decided that friendship with humanity was better than the alternatives. Admiral Lisa Brooks, who had been promoted after her excellent work during the fleet revelation, now commanded the sole defense grid that protected Earth and the other human worlds. Her ships patrolled the borders of human space, making sure that everyone understood the consequences of threatening Earth or its allies. "Sir, we have delegations from 6 different species requesting permission to establish embassies in human space," Lisa reported during her weekly briefing with Jake. "They're all asking for the same thing, protection from the Draconian Empire. It seems that our arrival has made a lot of species think about whether their current arrangements are really working for them." The Draconian Empire had been the galaxy's dominant military force for over 1,000 years. Their ships were powerful, their armies were large, and their willingness to use violence to get what they wanted was well known throughout the galaxy. But even the Draconians had been forced to recalculate their plans in the face of humanity's sudden emergence as a rival power. Commander Ryan Torres had been promoted to lead the deep space exploration fleets that were now expanding human territory throughout the galaxy. His ships were discovering new star systems, establishing human colonies, and claiming territory that had been empty for millions of years. The galaxy that had waited centuries for Earth to emerge was now scrambling to adapt to humanity's rapid expansion. "Fleet Command, this is Deep Space Group 7, Ryan reported from his flagship as it approached a star system that no human had ever seen before. "We found another system with 3 habitable planets and no current inhabitants. Recommend immediate colonization to establish human presence in this sector." Back on the Alien Council Station, Ambassador Claire Watson was delivering her quarterly report to the assembled delegates. The chamber that had been filled with chaos and fear 3 months ago was now quiet and attentive, as Claire spoke about humanity's growing role in galactic affairs. In the 3 months since first contact, humanity has established diplomatic relations with 47 species, signed mutual defense treaties with 17 governments, and begun trade relationships that benefit all parties involved, Claire reported to the assembled aliens. We have also established colonies in 12 new star systems and begun construction of defense stations that will help protect this entire region from external threats. Some of the alien delegates shifted uncomfortably as Claire spoke. They were beginning to understand that humanity's expansion was not slowing down, and that Earth's influence was growing stronger every day. What had started as the arrival of a new species was becoming the rise of a new galactic superpower. Dr. Rachel Martinez had established a research station where human and alien scientists worked together to share knowledge and develop new technologies. The cooperation between species that had been enemies for centuries was producing advances that surprised everyone involved. The joint research projects are exceeding all expectations. Rachel reported to the Human Leadership Council. We're developing faster-than-light communication systems, improved weapons technology, and medical advances that will benefit every species in the galaxy. The aliens are starting to understand that partnership with humanity offers benefits that conquest never could. Captain Pete Johnson now commanded Battle Fleet Alpha, a collection of the most powerful ships in the human arsenal. His fleet was stationed near the border with Draconian space, where it served as a constant reminder that humanity would not be intimidated by the galaxy's former dominant power. Draconian Command. This is Captain Johnson, Pete transmitted to a group of alien ships that had been testing human resolve by approaching the border between the two territories. You are approaching the boundary of human space. I suggest you reconsider your course unless you want to test whether your ships are as tough as you think they are. The Draconian ships changed course and moved away from the human border. Even the galaxy's most aggressive species had learned to respect the firepower that humanity could bring to bear against anyone who threatened their interests. General Ben Coleman had established the Galactic Security Force, a military organization that included human troops and volunteers from allied species. The force was dedicated to protecting smaller species from aggression and maintaining peace in regions that had been plagued by conflict for centuries. The security forces changing how conflicts are resolved throughout the galaxy, Ben reported to Jake Morrison. Instead of small species being forced to choose between different powerful protectors, they now have the option of neutral protection that doesn't come with political strings attached. 5 years after first contact, the human fleet had grown to over 10,000 ships, making it the largest military force in known galactic history. What had started as a shocking display of hidden military might had evolved into the foundation of a new galactic order, where humanity played a central role. Ambassador Claire Watson stood once again before the Galactic Council, but this time she was not introducing humanity to the galaxy. Instead, she was announcing the formation of the Galactic Peace Alliance, a new organization that would challenge the old system where a few powerful species controlled the fate of hundreds of weaker ones. The galaxy waited for Earth for 300 years. Claire said to the assembled delegates, and now Earth is here to stay. We have kept our promise. We came in peace, but we were prepared for war. That preparation has made all the difference, not just for humanity, but for every species that chooses cooperation over conquest. The age of human dominance had begun, and the galaxy was learning that sometimes the newcomers could teach the old powers new ways of doing things. Earth had not just joined galactic civilization, it had transformed it into something better than it had ever been before.